Hello folks, Reloading Bench back with you once again, and it is mail call. You're like, what is this? Well, this is the footprint, the template of my Wilton Vise. And it looks like, I'm trying to figure out, what do we got here? This is 5-inch on center. That's 6-inch on center. That's 5.5. That's 6 on center. All right, so 6 on center, 5 on center. So I'm going to say that, I'm not going to say this is the front. I'm just going to label this as X because it's a size. And the reason that's important, it's not important, it's just something to consider, is because we have this package to unwrap. And for those of you who have done business with this company, you will recognize this wonderful wrapping with the nylon tape. Let's see what we've got here. What we've got here, actually, maybe we'll do scissors. So obviously times are changing because I never say never. Can't remember the last time that my stuff was shipped. Because see, ends are exposed. I'm not a fan of that. Ends are exposed because that's how stuff gets damaged. So this is called, and it must be some of my paperwork, the money info. Is it looking familiar yet? Maybe not yet. Well, how about once we pick up this business card. Inline Fabrication. How about now? So I'm very curious what the edges look like since they were exposed. I will say I'll be bummed if they're damaged, because if you're going to go through the trouble of covering it, cover it all. Don't just cover some of it. All right, so minor. Considering what I'm going to do to this plate, not important. So I'm going to cut this out, and then I'm going to lay this on this plate and see what it looks like. Back in a minute. All right, so here's my ghetto copy on my stand. And the idea being that I'm going to take this plate, this 8-inch blank plate that would go hopefully so this doesn't line up. Isn't that interesting? I wonder if that's because this is, I wonder if this is bigger than bigger. You know what I'm thinking? I wonder if it's because this is too thick. Okay, so the idea is that that would happen. And this would be under here. So let's take this plate and rotate the camera right there. Okay, that works. Okay, I might be fabricating some more. Well, that's just wonderful. Okay. So my presses fit on here, as you've seen with a previous video. But the intent is to take this plate and make it fit on my we're gonna have to see how that goes. And then my thought was to figure out which way this goes. It's kind of like that. And then I'm going to drill holes where those kind of are. And then I'm going to use some big ass bolts, and then I'm going to weld the bolts to the top of this. And then I'm going to anchor the vise to the bolts that are welded to the top of this, and then hopefully that will go right here. So now I'll go off camera and figure out WTF in terms of what do I got going on here. My first thought is this is thicker than this. I guarantee you it's thicker. It's almost a third thicker. So let's see what we've got for thickness test. I'd rather have it too thick than not. And let's see what we've got. I should use the micrometer, but whatever. I'm going to call this 200 thou, which is 5 millimeter. And I'll take this and I'm at 7 millimeters or 300 thou, so 30% thicker. This is a third thicker, which I'm going to say that this plate is probably 200 thou as well. Yeah, 200 thou. 200 thou, 300 thou. All right, I got to do some fine tuning later. And we're back. So I kind of lucked out because since this plate has enough overhang, this entire nut is free of this plate. So I don't have to do anything. And I've got the two back ends. If I'm in frame, I've got the two back ends locked in. So that's a good thing. Now what I'm thinking is I took a scribe and have etched where these holes will be. In fact, let me take the vise off and we'll continue on the bench and I'll show you this up a little closer. All right, so here's my scribed holes. Hopefully they will turn out to be scribed. You know, for painter's tape that's not supposed to stick, it's amazing how much it sticks. All right, so clearly I have etched I have scribed my hole. So these are 1/2-inch bolts, and in order for this front to be exactly like the back, meaning flush with what you saw, about like that, I need 1.5 inches exactly from the bottom of the black plate, which is 200 thou, to the top of the bolt. So I have this bolt marked, and I was going to cut right at that thread, but what I think I will do is potentially drill this, tap it, and then screw this in from the bottom and see if I can get a couple of threads. You know, what do I have here? 200,000. Ooh, well, let's get the calipers. 200 thou. If memory serves, I believe the black plate is 200 thou. Yeah, just under 200,000. So 200,000 gets me maybe 2 to 3 threads. So enough to try this idea. So I think what I will do, I will figure out what size drill I need in order to tap 1/2 inch 13. Once I have that, I will take, here's the equivalent stainless version that I won't be using. I'll be using the hardened grade 8 bolt, but here's a stainless bolt. I'll take this, and let's pretend this is the head cut off. I think I will grind a small taper, ridiculously small, like thousandths of 100 thou of an inch, and use the taper, and then on the back side, so the underside of this, I will put a bevel. Let's see which one is the bestest. No, I'll use a 5/8 inch, put a bevel. Let me see what a 3/4 would do. I think I'll use a 3/4. I use a 3/4 to get a bevel on the underside. So between the bevel and the taper, that's what I'll tack. So hopefully I'll be able to screw that in enough that the bevel and the taper will allow that to remain vertical, straight, as opposed to welding at an angle, which that's how things would go for me, because that's just how things go for me. So we'll see how that works out. So the first thing to do is drill these two, and that allows me to use, drum roll, test out some anchor lube, see how that does for drilling, as well as tapping. All right, back later. All right, tonight's effort was what I'll call a success. These were drilled, tapped, and beveled. So we now have those two. And what I'll probably do is put these two in, put the vise on, and then see if these two will center with the vise on. And we'll see how that looks. Back in a minute. All right, have to go off tripod in order to see this. So that is in there. Obviously that's in there. Flip it around. That is in there. Just to prove that it screws in. And obviously that is in there. So these will get welded in. And then these will get welded in. That and that will get welded in. Then we'll screw that back end in. So these are the two ones to worry about the most. And you know, I've got a little bit of room in there, but not enough based on what I did with the stand. So the welding will be from the bottom. That's for sure. Maybe a light tack. I don't know. We'll see how it works out. But that's it for tonight. I'm tired. By the way, I didn't realize so much green. Anchor lube worked great for the paciness of the drill. So, good stuff. Good evening. We're going to call this a done. Let me undo one of the wheels, unlock one of the wheels. So, this bolt and that bolt were welded. You can see the temperature of the welding discolored. They're about the same height, give or take a 0.5 millimeter as the rear. And again, there's nothing there. And I will take this off and put it over here so you can see the bottom of thisy thing. Worked out great. I'm quite happy with it. All right, the top bolts, front bolts, which will be the rear bolts depending on the stand, and then the ground down welds. And let me put it on that stand, that mount. Okay, we have an empty stand. And we have a perfect fit. Not a whole lot of room in between my Dillon Allen wrenches. So when it's on the stand, the front is actually in the back due to the weight and the distribution. But because of how it sits on the bench, and I would probably have it most likely like that if I leave it on the bench, just because of my working area. Now that I'm all done with making sure the right front goes to the right front, we can take that off. So we are good. This is a done project, and I'll probably leave it here for a short period of time. Ooh, it's very hard to do things when the camera's in front of you. All right, so that is semi-locked there, but I love the fact that it can go on the bench, on the stand, or whatever. And now with this here, that frees up the stand, so I could put a press on there. I have presses hanging out in the garage, so lots of versatility. I'm very happy with how this turned out. A little bit of welding, a little bit of grinding, some cutting, some some everything. Measure many times, cut once. But yeah, good stuff. Done. Later.